Spam.
Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of the Pixel Crashers podcast that I apparently am automatically spamming out on Twitter over and over again with no explanation as to why. I am Angelus de Mortiel. I am Angelus de Mortiel, joined once again by the glorious KEV. Xaiphen.
Glorious! Oh wait, that wrong line.
And Lila Rose.
Welcome to the lair.
Kev was so taken aback by me calling him the glorious KEV, even though that's been his Twitter display name for how long now?
48 hours.
Yeah, 48 hours is like an eternity.
For him, yeah, he's going to change it probably after we're done with this, and then
Well, after
he'll
we're
change it
done?
again 24 hours after that.
You didn't want to wait that long?
Nah, probably
Why
not.
don't you get like halfway into the podcast?
Yeah, that's the case. In any case, to anybody following me on Twitter, I apologize. For some reason, I am just, I think I know what's happening. Oh man,
See, now me, I would just let the spam happen.
no.
Eventually, Twitter will say stop. Just a big ban like I did. Fuck those Twitch thoughts.
So what I did, so yesterday, I was getting the Discord channel's Twitter feed up and running, so that people see all of our tweets in the Discord server as kind of a live feed in there. Because I say super intellectual shit on Twitter that I don't really say in the Discord server because I'm not. Anyway, point is that when I went in, the service I used for it is IFTTT, which is super awesome. By the way, if you haven't used it before, highly recommend it. It's great.
They don't sponsor us.
Yeah, they don't sponsor us, but I make heavy use of them for a lot of automation tasks. And when going into the Twitter thing, I'm pretty certain that there was already a formula set up in there for retweeting tweets from the Pixel Crashers Twitter from my personal Twitter, and I'm pretty certain that it was dormant. It wasn't working for whatever reason, and when I went in there yesterday, that's whenever shit was going wonky. And so essentially the Pixel Crashers Twitter retweeted my tweet, which then I retweeted that tweet.
A lot like when somebody had an Echo and a Google Home talking to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. This is what technology really is all about, ladies and gentlemen. Yep. Finding ways to break stuff horribly. In any case, I'm going to delete that other one because, well, no, let's not do that. I'm not big on
spam.
My favorite part.
You really Xaiphened it up.
Yeah.
Really Xaiphened it up this time.
That is really what happened, is that I've Xaiphened it up.
And I'm going to spam shit on your timeline. You gonna see
Comically enough, I actually heard, I was listening to another podcast this week, and I heard someone shilling for this book that's called Overly Technical Explanations to Commonplace Things, or something to that effect. And I'm thinking, wait, Xaiphen's not as an author? When did this happen?
Right, that's what I'm thinking. That's not something Xaiphen would write.
Yeah, like when did you be like? Are you producing like New York Times bestsellers and not telling us? Like,
No, not this time.
He probably Xaiphened up the book too. He couldn't use regular paper like everybody else.
No, he wasn't.
Excessive editing, that's my issue.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow I believe it too. Mm-hmm. So in any case, yeah. So there's all sorts of fun technical stuff that. Yeah, that's. Anyway, moving on. So this week was Gamescom. It's this as Rose very aptly put it, it is discount E3.
But Xbox actually had games this time. Xbox has no games, though.
Hey, listen, guys, I just want to point out, this was when Gamescom was when that one game was actually going to announce that they, MechWarrior 5 was going to announce that they were an Epic exclusive.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, do you think we forgot about that, guys? Nope.
You.
Mhm.
Hashtag boycott Borderlands 3.
Unlike the internet, we don't forget.
Oh, the
I
internet. So the thing is, here's the thing, is the internet has a short attention span, but it never forgets. That's the fun part
The
about the internet.
popularity will dissipate, but the memory lives on forever.
As the point of, there's people that get fired from their jobs for a tweet that they made like 12 years ago whenever they were trying to be edgy or cool and make dark jokes or whatever, and it gets them fired from their job modern day because it was offensive. So
It was offensive 12 years later.
yeah, it was it wasn't offensive when the joke was made. It was offensive now. Talk about a historian's fallacy.
Right.
In any case, so Gamescom, let me actually get the the thing.
Why are people getting fired for tweets anyway? Like, that's retarded.
Yes, it absolutely is retarded.
Mm-hmm.
Also, real quick before we get into the stories too much on there, I do want to give shout outs to Morris Minor in chat and Salty Jade. Morris Minor,
Welcome back, Jade.
long time supporter of the podcast here, so we're always happy to see him pop in there. And Jade, always good to see you back here as well. In any case, moving on to the fun of things, let's talk about Gamescom and the ongoing advertisement that is, hey guys, here's the games that you should be hyped about, but we're not always going to show you the whole game.
I mean, they showed us the gameplay of the Avengers game, and it was basically
yes, they
cutscene,
did.
Cutscene, QTE, more cutscene.
That was Alex's
like,
joke.
yeah,
that was Alex's joke about the Black Widow.
I mean, that's what everybody was saying though. Alex is just he puts it so eloquently, and he knows how to trigger the fanboys, and I love it.
And my favorite response to that was they just kept making jokes about the fact that the camera seemed not to be following Black Widow's torso, but a certain part of her anatomy.
Her ass?
Yep. And I'm like, well, we can see what this game is looking at here. All right.
I mean, maybe it was inspired by the Twitch thoughts?
I mean, Mass Effect and what's her name? Very
Mass Effect
forgettable.
2. No, Miranda.
Yeah, Mass Effect 2.
Miranda's ass
yeah.
wasn't forgettable.
Yeah, no, that's where the joke, the Ass Effect joke came in, because there was these really, like, there's no way that could be an accidental camera angle where the center of the frame is her ass, and then Shepard happens to be in the background. Come on.
Shepard in the background being all pervy and shit.
At what point did someone not look at that, roll their eyes, and be like, really? Really?
I mean, I didn't know we were supposed to bang humans in Mass Effect. I'm confused. I thought we only banged aliens.
Right? I thought that was the whole point of.
It
like,
depends on
Liara.
if you're
It's
a
more or
Liara
less
or a
like you
Tallymancer.
get to play game is.
Well, I was a Tallymancer. Tally's my favorite. Remember, I named my cat Tally.
It's not aliens because you're playing the game as James Kirk. I mean, you bang
boldly
anything
go
that has
where
two legs. It's anything with two legs on it, maybe 4, 5, 6. It doesn't really matter.
Well,
anything
the thing
that
is,
moves,
if you're talking about the original Kirk,
there, we're good to go.
Well, if you're talking about the original Kirk, let's also point out that the aliens in that show were just humans with different skin colors.
Well, there was one.
I feel like there's a political joke to be made in there, by the way.
Well, there's an extreme example from the original series, the Horta, if you remember, which was the magma species. It was a silicon-based species that somehow ended up pregnant after they discovered it.
Yeah.
I mean, but nobody got more ass than James Bond.
And you just see like Kirk being like, "All right, and we're going."
Like he gets treated for excessive burns.
They have things that you can put on to prevent. There's a way to prevent that burn before you do the act. Should have worn one.
Bones, I have a problem. I need your help. What is it, Jim? I've got some burns that I need to.
I think boning was his first problem.
No, see, Bones saw that coming, and he interceded with, "Damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer." Again, same episode.
Oh, God.
By the way, can I just say that Carl Urban did a fucking fantastic job of acting like Bones in the what do you call it?
The Kelvin
the reboot.
timeline.
The reboot of it. Like I'm just gonna say, like, Carl Urban has a ton of my respect. Between that, seeing him in that movie, and also what's his name?
Zachary Quinto also did a
Zachary
great job
Quinto.
as Spock.
Yes.
Those were the two best role players in that movie.
Yeah,
honestly.
they both did a phenomenal job of playing those characters. Like, I gotta say,
you know the worst one was oh fuck, what the hell's his name now? Why am I blanking on this? The guy that played Khan.
Oh,
Khan, who was supposed to be
Benedict
he was supposed to be Hindi. I mean Indian. I think the character was supposed to be, from the Middle Eastern area-ish, which could include India. I know that's excessive generalization, but that kind of general area of the world was where that storyline comes from.
Yes, and the fascinating part about it,
let's get a super white British guy to play as him.
Well, let's be honest here. What was he in the movie, or the first movie? What was he in the TV show?
A cat.
He's been white the whole time, despite the fact that his character's supposed to be Indian. It was born out of 60s, where, holy crap, the fact that there was a black woman even on screen was controversial enough, much less having a scene where a black woman kisses a white man. Oof. Not the first time it happened, but one of the first time. In any case,
gotta love the 60s.
Yeah, 60s.
I say that.
No, I don't want to be part of the 60s. That's an era I'm glad I missed.
I said, sarcastically.
I think the people in the 60s don't really remember the 60s either.
I think they choose to forget.
No. They did. Well, yes, they did choose to forget, but it's not that they're choosing to forget. They chose to take the substances that made them forget.
That's how that works.
Yes, that's how that works. In any case,
the actor that played him, though, I don't think he was very white, if I remember right.
In the which one? In the
Ricardo Montalban, however that's pronounced. Trying to look up information on him to see exactly, because I want to say he's like Eastern European.
If he's Eastern European, that's white.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Caucasian.
Oh no, not well. Yes, still white, but not that kind of white. He's born in Mexico. He's Mexican. I don't know why I was thinking Eastern European. For some reason, I thought he was like Greek. I thought he was Greek for some reason, or something like that. That's what I meant by Eastern.
There's no white.
See, that's the thing. That's where I'm a little weird, right? And not to go into like racial, like identity stuff on here, but so Latinos and Central South American folk are not Caucasian in any way. Well, I'm not sure about some Argentinians, but that's a different story. In any case, Latino folk are not Caucasian, but Mediterranean people are oftentimes considered Caucasian. That just really confuses me.
Well, it's the racist nationalism of the U.S. There's two factors in there. There's the racist nationalism of the U.S. that plays into that heavily. Yeah. There's also a much lighter factor, but still very prevalent, is unlike the European invasion into the North America, in South America, there was a lot of integration with the locals, local customs, local genetics, as opposed to North America.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. It's one of those things that's always confused me a little bit.
That's one thing, like, you can credit, the Spanish for. Granted, the Spanish fucked up a lot of shit down there, but at least it kept a lot better preservation of local traditions integrated with their society. It depends on where. Depends on where.
To the British,
But you look at it as a
there.
whole, compare it to North America, not Mexico, U.S. and Canada. You compare to U.S. and Canada, it is vastly different.
Well, yeah, because the thing is that that's one of those Catholic things. You go back, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, by the way. It's a criticism I have of Catholicism. Over the millennia it's been around, it has been very assimilative. Where
much like Hindu, honestly. Hindu's been a lot like that too.
In areas where Catholicism moves in, it takes the local embedded religious traditions and integrates them into the religion in order to better assimilate Catholicism with everyday life. And there's actually a term for it. I think it's called Romanicization. Is actually the term, because that Catholic practice came from the Roman Empire. That's what the Roman Empire would do. Mm-hmm. They would take over a new region, and they would literally integrate the local religious traditions into the whole Roman Empire. That's why the pantheon of the Roman Empire had 25,000 gods. Yes, you hear about the traditional Roman pantheon, which was integrated from Greece, by the way.
Yeah.
wasn't even originally Roman. But there was also random other gods that just got added in piecemeal as they took over different regions. Up to, I think, towards the late side, they were integrating some of the pagan gods right before, the Northern European pagan gods right before Christianity took over the Roman Empire. And then at that point, they just said, hey, keep celebrating the same way. We're just going to change the name.
After Christianity came about, they were still integrating some aspects of Norse. Hell didn't exist until the 4th century AD, which was from hell and the Norse mythology.
I mean, there has been an underworld. If you go into Greek, there is Tartarus.
Yeah. Well, the hell is equivalent to Hades.
Yeah, Hades, but there's also Tartarus, and there's concepts. It wasn't just entirely based on hell, because hell in the Norse on there is actually one of the extra realms. It's not a underworld so much as it is a different universe. Good God, what the fuck is our podcast about, guys?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm glad y'all finally reeled it back in. Every time I tried to get a word in, somebody just kept it, hey, we're gonna get louder for Kevin and keep going.
Yeah, that's what we do. Guys, so
podcast of ADD.
Yeah, this is the ADD
so how about
podcast.
Empire, that RTS game that they showed that looks really awesome.
Which one? They showed a bunch of great RTS games.
Did I not say Kev was going to start talking about the RTS games?
Mm-hmm.
You knew I was. The Empire is the one that's based in Prohibition.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't remember all of the details on it, but from what I saw from it, I love the theme.
Yeah,
it's
they
like
had
a Mafia RTS, and I want Gears Tactics. goddammit, I want Gears Tactics.
What about the we'll call it the third-person version of Super Hot, aka John Wick Hex? Guys, check that.
I've had enough third-person action adventure games to stop that one.
No. I said a third-person Super Hot. What is Super Hot? It is not a third-person action adventure game.
No, it's a first.
It's a strategy. No, it's a strategy game. Because essentially, it's
a first-person action strategy. It's a first-person action strategy.
Action adventure game with shooting elements.
No, it's not. Christ. It's not an action adventure game, Kev. So essentially, the way Super Hot works is that the game is paused, and you have to kind of stop motion, unpause, and tactically move yourself through an environment in order to shoot.
I own Super Hot.
Huh?
I'm just talking shit. I own Super Hot. I'm talking shit.
Okay. But essentially, John Wick Hex looks like it's the same thing. Essentially, you can pause, turn yourself, and move in another unpause and move in another direction, like Super Hot does, where it's kind of more of a stop motion type strategy thing, except for it's third person. So it's essentially you get to recreate your own John Wick action pieces from the movie, but in a video game.
Before I saw the trailer, I saw the title, and I was thinking, is this a granted, before I saw the trailer, I saw the title, and I thought, is this a combination of John Wick and Jonah Hex?
Right?
Yes.
Yeah. And I was thinking for a minute,
kind of insane.
I was like, all right. all right, this is an interesting route. You know, okay. But no, they also had Humankind, which looks more like it has a bit of RTS elements to it. I am not necessarily thinking I'm gonna like that one as much, but Empire of Sin and John Wick Hex both kind of looked interesting. And then there was also that Shenmue game that was there. Moving on then.
Just
One
add
person who
Morris.
played it said he really liked it.
Morris, I
And
have
that's
not tried
really
There Are Billions.
There Are
I've
Billions?
seen a lot of people talk about it, but I'm waiting for it to come out of early access.
Yeah, I saw that somewhere, and I can't remember.
It looks interesting. It's more like a tower defense game where you're defending
That's
this
right.
mansion from millions of zombies. And by day, kind of like Don't Starve, where you set up all your defenses to get everything going.
Yeah,
And then at night, all the zombies come out. Kind of like in Don't Starve, everything comes for you at night.
yeah,
Don't
that's right.
Starve.
Now, was it made
Now-
by the same folks as Don't Starve?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'd have to look at that. I've never followed it. I played it a few times. My 14-year-old's really into Don't Starve, but
Mhm.
I'm not crazy about it myself. The game is brutal. It's cool. It's just not something I'll play every day.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Desperados 3 was another one on there too.
Isn't
There's,
that
two-
Western RTS?
Yeah.
That's an
Okay.
actual RTS or is it a 4X?
No. It's a Desperados 3. I think is no. Sorry, that one's an RTS. The one that's 4X is actually I think Humankind.
Yeah, Humankind. That's the one by Sega. I saw
Yes.
people on YouTube calling it Diet Civilization.
Yep. Because
Oh,
you're essentially taking. Well, no, it's like what's that? Is it no Age of Empires? You essentially take a civilization from Stone Man Age, I think, up through advancement or whatever. Which I think is that Age of Empires.
That's Age of Empires, but Age of Empires and Civ work differently because
Yes.
Age of Empires is more mission based.
Oh,
Like
okay.
you do a level, and as you progress through the levels, you pass the time.
Yep. Oh, okay.
I wish you actually, and then the moment to moment mechanics are more like what you call it, Halo Wars or Command and Conquer or StarCraft, something more like that.
Which
Mhm.
I honestly, I'm gonna say on there, I don't mind that. I think I actually really like Command and Conquer as an RTS. I kind of enjoyed the way of play of it. And I know there's going to be a lot of fans out there that will be angry at me, but I liked it better than StarCraft 2.
I like Halo Wars more. Halo Wars
Yeah.
2 more than StarCraft 2. Fight me.
Well, until I should say that I liked Command and Conquer better until what was it 4? Command and Conquer 4 was that like Tiberium Twilight or whatever.
Yeah,
that was just
that one was
absolute
trash.
shit garbage. That was at what point EA had firmly dug in their talons and were like, "We're gonna make this shit. We don't know what we're doing."
Oh, you thought that,
kind
and when you think they couldn't make it worse, they made Command and Conquer a mobile game. So you can't get like an actual PC Command and Conquer game. Now you have
Yeah.
to play it on your phone.
Well, Westwood or Wildwood?
I
Westwood.
think it's Westwood.
Yeah, Westwood is obviously gone. So, the original makers of Command and Conquer have been nuked from orbit. This is the classic EA that we know and love, who took one of the pillars of the strategy pantheon, if you will, and said, we're just going to piss on it and then knock it down.
So they're gonna do the same thing that they did to the makers of Dead Space. But I swear BioWare's next.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they made them make Anthem, and then Anthem was shit. I think we might get Dragon Age 4, and I don't think we're gonna get anything else out of them.
Maybe. It depends on what Dragon Age 4 does. Dragon Age 4
Yeah.
just flops. And
Yeah,
there's
BioWare's done.
rumors that it's going to be a an online type game or whatever. If it's going
Like
to have
Anthem.
its yeah,
I basically heard like Anthem with dragons.
yeah, and if they're going to try to essentially do Fallout, what is it called? That game I can't stand.
76?
Yeah, that's the one. If they're going to essentially do Fallout 76 with Dragon Age, it's gonna fucking bomb so goddamn hard, so hard.
Honestly,
That's not a fair assessment, because Fallout 76 is more like Elder Scrolls Online without the polish.
Yeah, and the thing is that Elder Scrolls Online had a rough start to begin with too. I mean,
Yeah.
it had such a rough launch. ZeniMax Online gave me a free copy of the game because I told him how bad it sucked.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that
Oh yeah,
shit's-
70,
I have
76
no hope
is
for
okay.
this,
It feels 76 feels like a Fallout game. It just sucks that there's no companions and there's no.
aren't they adding NPCs?
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah, they're
Finally?
I think they're supposed to be there sometime this fall.
But Todd Howard
Sometime.
said that we don't
It's
need
coming Tuesday.
don't need NPCs, guys. It's
We don't know what
about the
to-
interactions between.
Tell me sweet little lies.
God, I wish we could replay that one.
Yeah, did you guys play that song I put in the channel last week? The one that was making fun of Todd Howard, It Just Works?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, that.
Yeah.
That song was great. It's just a song with all the broken shit Bethesda's put out. If you guys haven't heard it, it's called It Just Works. You can put it on YouTube. It's by the Chalk Eaters. They're on YouTube. The song is freaking hilarious. I'm just making fun of all the broken shit Bethesda's put out.
I mean, that's been pretty much Bethesda since the beginning. I mean,
Right.
people
the
have this.
modders will fix it.
Well,
They
that's
can't do 76.
before modders even, because the modding thing really never got a lot of strength behind it until Morrowind. I mean, because when you look at Arena was a broken fucking mess. Let's be honest, a lot of people have rosy glasses for Dragonfall. Yes.
Oh, Elder Scrolls 2?
Yes.
Yeah, that's Dragonfall.
Yeah, people have like this rosy remembrance of Dragonfall as being like your purists, your Bethesda purists will say that Elder Scrolls 2 is the best Elder Scrolls game. They're remembering that with nostalgia because that game was also a buggy piece of shit mess too. For that day and age, now it just feels unplayable because obviously it's very dated. But
I mean, there's a lot of games that people come back with rose-tinted glasses about, though. Like, I have rose-tinted glasses about the original Mass Effect.
Yep.
But that game,
Yeah.
it's playable, but I don't think it'll be playable in a few years. It feels really bad. It did not age well.
yeah,
See,
No,
I
it didn't.
got over
Even Mass
that.
Effect 2 didn't age very well.
One game got me over that. Mario 64. Mario 64. That when it came out, it was fucking awesome, and for even years after that, the mechanics in it were fucking beautiful. The picture, like even for the animation that it had, it still looked great for its day and age. Even games that came out after it just seemed very inferior, especially that motion in that game. The mechanics in the game are beautiful.
have you
They
played?
still are. But a few years ago, I acquired a 64 and hooked it up to an HD TV, and the mechanics were still awesome. It looked like shit, and a lot of things that I remember being awesome in that game just weren't quite as good anymore. So I kind of lost rose-tinted glasses for just about everything with that game.
So
Mhm.
I do. want
That's
to
just how a lot of games are, though. It's hard to go back and play some of these older games and not feel that way.
Well,
Especially like I've gone back to play some of the stuff from the Genesis, and I'm like, whoa. Like, how did I play the original Mortal Kombat, which I used to love? It was my favorite Mortal Kombat for years. Now I go back and play it. I'm like, man, it's so slow and janky.
The Legacy of Kain series, which has a beautiful story behind all of the games, despite Soul Reaver getting chopped up and having its story extended and stretched. But after the original stretch and chop and extension of the story, it became very elaborate and interesting and intricate. And the last game in the series, Defiance, I never got the chance to finish because I had a bugged copy on the Xbox. So years later, I got it on Steam. I still have it. I tried playing through it. I'm like, man, I just can't stand this shit. It's too old for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to point out that I recently got a hold of Fable Anniversary, and that game ages wonderfully. It is still, yeah, it's like, okay, you don't get some of the more fancy facial animations today, but the fact of back in that day, even for that day and age, it was kind of cartoony art style.
Caricature.
Yes,
They were
caricatures. Yes. So it
Which
makes
that
it
that
easier.
usually stands the test of time pretty well.
Yeah, when you
Yeah.
have deliberately cartoony graphics from the outset. Now, Anniversary, of course, was a what's the word I'm looking for? A remaster. That's the
Master.
one. A remaster. God, I don't want, my brain is just not working today. But in any case, yeah. So it is a remaster. It does output HD, whereas the original did not. But it's still like that game just has some cheesy good jokes. It is the gameplay still feels pretty solid like it did back in the day. Now the one thing I don't like about the Anniversary Edition, I was sitting there playing, I'm like, these controls just feel really janky to me. Like one of the things that drove me nuts is that I had to like hold the right trigger and keep hitting B to scroll through a selection of one spell to have mapped to only the B button. And I'm
I
like,
believe TV made similar criticism about that in WTF's video.
well, yeah. So it was like, it made no
And he basically
goddamn
said just
sense
play
to
the
me.
original.
Yeah, well, it made no sense to me. And then I realized when I was going into the settings that that is the Fable 2/3 inspired controller set. And I was like, oh, motherfucker. It's been literally, what, 15, 14 years?
Oh yeah, that's right.
13 years since I played this game. So there's actually the original controller. Once I swapped it to that, I'm like, now I'm back to it, because essentially the original one is you'd hold the right trigger and it would switch your face buttons over to having 3 mapped spells, in the Y button to switch between presets for those. So you could have like multiple presets of those 3 map buttons, like 3 attack spells and then 3 defense spells, or whatever you wanted to do. Whereas the inspired one it was all just the B button. You'd hold right trigger and you had one spell, and I'm like, this feels so janky. I'm having such a hard ass time trying to switch between spells.
Of course, you got to get to the glory part of reliving the
Yes!
good old days on how you did a replay of your Jonestown incident from many moons ago.
Yeah,
That,
I posted a screenshot in the Discord of so back in the day, this is Xaiphen and I, when when I was playing this, I was showing this in person. This is original Xbox. Yeah, it was the original
yes,
Xbox.
original OG Xbox.
Yeah, and I had conquered the bandit camp, whatever, did that whole thing, and then at one point later in the game, I went back to the bandit camp, got like, I don't know, 8, 10 of the bandits to follow me, and just had them running after me, chasing me, and I running through the town of Oakvale with this like parade of bandits was just the most comical sight you've ever seen in a video game. And I was like, I remembered what I did, and I was like, did they fix that? Can I still do that? Yes, you can. And I did it. Of course, most of them got massacred whenever we ran up against the rock troll in Darkwood, but there was still
there was
left to sacrifice.
the grand finale and what you did with them originally.
Oh yeah, I sacrificed them all to Scorm.
Yeah,
which is exactly what I did.
Make that Jonestown joke. It's like, he gathered up this band of bandits as a suicide cult.
Yes, dragged them all to the Temple of Scorm, and one by one sacrificed each and every one of them to my Lord and Savior Scorm. Praise be.
Praise Phil Spencer.
Yes, Scorm is Phil Spencer. By the way, I just want to give a little shout out to Phil Spencer. Fuck you for never having that game on sale, or any of your Microsoft Studios games. The old Microsoft
I got Fable
Studios.
Anniversary on sale.
I do gotta throw something that I was gonna say. I gotta throw something that is good for the rose-tinted glasses is that holds up over time. Crisis. Now that modern systems can actually play the game. It looks beautiful.
It does look beautiful on modern computers now.
But it doesn't have ray tracing. How could you ever play a game without ray tracing?
Oh my!
Without RTX, that's how.
Without ray tracing.
That game's irrelevant.
What kind of heathen are you? Shout out to Jensen Huang, who said it's just crazy to buy a GPU without ray tracing in 2019.
Yeah, I think who was it that was making a comment that I saw today that I just realized, and I was like, holy crap, that's a very Barnacles, I think was who it was, made a very good point of, it's 2019 and Adobe Premiere and just everything Adobe CC still doesn't have an NVENC preset built in. What the fuck are you doing with your life, man? They still run everything off of H.264, not even H.265. Like, come
They
on.
just over here counting their money. They're doing that Donald Duck meme with the
Oh,
money.
you're not wrong. That is totally Adobe to a fucking T.
Yeah.
And that's been them for a while. Like, how much did CS6 Master Collection cost? Like $1,500 or something ridiculous like that? Like,
Yeah,
they
I'll
just
be paying
don't...
for it.
They don't give a fuck.
I mean, they like NVIDIA. What I've noticed about a lot of corporations, NVIDIA and Intel are like this too. When they're on top, they don't give a fuck. They do whatever.
Yeah,
Nope.
absolutely. You know, that about sums it up. And you know, speaking of
Sony's like that too. Like the PS5, I think is gonna be anti-consumer like a motherfucker. Because when Sony wins a generation, they come out the next generation with their dicks out on the table. Suck it.
Yeah,
That's just Sony.
Going back to Gamescom, there's a couple of games other than the obvious that I'm interested in. Cyberpunk 2077, of course, is still looking forward to that one. But Death Stranding, oddly enough, I'm looking forward to that. The more information we get on that, the more confused we are about what the fuck that thing is about.
Because nobody knows what that game is about.
No, guys, you know what that game's about? Urinating.
Mechanics.
Yes, urination.
Yeah, urination.
You know what else is about mechanics? Diablo. It's about mechanics.
But you know what?
Demons.
That confusion is alluring to me, and I want to know what the fuck that game's about. So I actually buy it because of that.
Kojima, show a motherfucking number.
I might even pre-order.
I'll be playing, and then Morty hasn't played, and it disappoints me. Doom 2016.
But, another game
which
Kev pointed this one out before I looked more into it. Disintegration.
Disintegration looks pretty fucking cool.
That's Xaiphen all day.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Disintegration looks pretty badass.
I think I'll enjoy that game a lot. It's just a matter of how soon I'll be able to get a hold of it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, Disintegration looks pretty awesome. I'm just gonna say on there, I said it on Twitter, I'll say it again. Hey, listen, you know what else came out in 2016? Total War Warhammer. Kev, you have nothing to say there. You have no response. Because what game have you been playing non-stop since it came out earlier this year?
Three Kingdoms?
Yeah. You know what that life is like.
I haven't played Three Kingdoms in days. I've been playing Age of Wonders.
Days, guys.
I believe you.
The original Sin.
After playing it for 8 months straight without taking, he took time off of work.
Yep.
He applied for Family Medical Leave Act, FMLA, just so he could play this game.
No comment.
I love the look on his face. The look on his face of like,
I will neither confirm nor deny that.
I might have tried to take paternity leave.
Grounds that it may incriminate me.
I put it for maternity leave, and they said, "Kev, that's not possible. Like, you're not a chick. You can't have a baby."
Okay, that's just to throw that out there. A little bit of bullshit on the U.S. Employment system, because paternity leave is important too, guys. This is your PSA for the day.
Yeah, but I tried to do paternity leave to play a video game.
And they were like, Kev, it's a video game. It's not your kid.
But it should be.
But it feels like it.
Oh,
right.
Man.
Just because I want to take 2 weeks off to play Gears 5, that means nothing.
So in any case,
vacation time.
So Xaiphen, switching topics on here because we spend enough time derailed on this podcast. So tell me about Dark.
Well, to lead off, a lot of us are already aware of Epic poaching. And the more like this article brought an awareness of Epic or poaching, sniping, whatever you want to call it, actually looking at games that were already promoted on Steam. They're going to be launched on Steam. They were already available for pre-order. They were announced for Steam, maybe other sources, and then Epic swoops in where they're like, "We got money. You want the money? Yeah, you want it." And these publishers are like, "Yeah, we do. We like money. We want the money." So they take the Epic exclusive and they just say, "Fuck you" to all your pre-order shit. And some people, some of the games are like, all right, your pre-orders are still good for Steam. Other ones are just like, give them a big fucking middle finger to the customers, which is bullshit. The developer, which it is an indie, the developer is the publisher for Dark, looked at the very minimal but important to note requirements to sell the game on Epic. You can't sell anywhere else.
Yeah.
And he had already, was looking
Unless you're Ubisoft.
He had already this developer. I think it's he. Had already announced that the game was going to be available on Steam and GOG, and we saw that and wanted to actually sell it on Epic, but because of that requirement, even though Epic was offering some money ahead of time for that, exclusivity buyout, it's like I don't, as an unknown publisher, unknown developer, I don't want to do people dirty like that, make a bad name for myself right out the gate. And I give this guy props for that. That is pretty fucking impressive to me. That already is showing a good stand-up attitude. I looked into the game. It does look to be interesting. When I get a little bit more details on it, I might be looking forward to buying that on GOG when it comes out.
Yeah, so
this guy actually revealed specific, like the email. It was polite and straight to the point from Epic, detailing what was required.
Yeah, and what he said was, since he doesn't, as far as he's aware, they have not requested any sort of confidentiality on that email. So he said, "I'm going to release the email and what they actually said."
Well, even if they did, just slamming a confidentiality in there doesn't make it confidential.
You're going to have a contract for that.
Yeah, you have to have a signed non-disclosure agreement or contract, any other kind of contract with a clause in there. So it doesn't make even if they did that, just no. Release it. Go ahead.
Well,
and if they try and sue
point
you,
of that wasn't even, I get the feeling the point of that was not to drag Epic. It was more or less, at least I'm trying to, give them benefit of the doubt. It was make clear to people who would, for some unknown reason, actually prefer to buy something from Epic, why it is not going to be available on Epic. Because you notice that people who are complaining about Epic are getting backlash from people who are just, pissed off at people complaining, so they're only going to buy from Epic because of that, whether or not they actually like Epic.
Oh, me and Mort.
So to appease those people that might actually want to buy something from Epic, is like, hey, this is why it's not going to be available.
Me and Mort got into it with a guy a few weeks back, actually, and then the guy came back at me yesterday because we've been shitting on Epic. He's blocked on Twitter now, but yeah.
You mean one of the sock puppets?
See, that's the thing is, like, we're not shitting on Epic. Epic is shitting on everybody, and we're just handing it back to them. Here's your shit, man. Right. You left it behind. Clean up after yourself.
What was that, Kev?
We're just derailing their facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And people don't like that.
Well, the thing
people
is
want a damage control show for Epic and don't have time for it.
Well, I mean, it's obviously very clear. So one of the things that I like, the biggest key on here was that so this was the big hypocrisy. The thing that I really want to focus on was that key point of this whole thing, which was that they were like, we can't really, what was their actual term? They said like sim launch or some shit like that. Yeah, so we aren't in a position yet to open the store up to games that sim ship or simultaneously ship. Cyberpunk 2077 happens to be on all stores. Oh, but they're in a position where they can tell you to go fuck yourselves. And
Division 2 was a sim ship, even though it was on Ubisoft's own store. It was still effectively a sim ship.
So all the private Division games are going to be on another platform one way or another. What's that Microsoft published game that's going to the Epic store that's also on the Microsoft store?
Outer Worlds.
Yes, Outer Worlds. So, yeah, you're in a point to simultaneously ship. You just don't want to give the option to indie devs who really fucking need that.
Right. Like, if anybody needs that.
But it's for the developers.
If anybody actually needs that, it's the indie developers.
Yes.
Like, Tim Sweeney isn't out to help developers. He's out to help himself. He has some kind of beef issue with Steam. Nobody really knows what it is, except for probably him and Gabe. And truth be told, I
don't think it's personal beef. It is a targeted. It's a targeted marketing move where he's looking to topple the giant
Yep.
So even if they don't become the next giant, they have a significant chance of becoming the next giant with no giant around.
Yes, and that's the big key on there. The big key on here is that Tim Sweeney and in Epic's strategy, it's not emotional. It's a corporation. That's the first thing that a lot of consumers need to realize is that anytime one of these corporations makes any kind of move, it's not emotional. A corporation, not Tim Sweeney, taking Tim Sweeney out of here. He's just the mouthpiece. You know, Epic Games is a corporation. It's an emotionless machine designed to generate profit. That's cold, that's harsh, but that is the truth. It's something that a lot of people don't like to hear. They want to think of their companies, their favored companies, as being good and having some moral compass or another. It's like, no, they don't. You know, you look at any of them, I don't care who it is, if it's Valve, if it's Epic, if it's, GOG, any of those ones, to some degree, you have to exert a huge amount of effort to get morality inserted into those corporations. And in this particular case, what they're doing is a very, like Xaiphen said, very tactical move. The whole point is based on the Pareto principle. All of these, if you notice, all of the exclusivity deals, with the exception of Borderlands 3, I think was 6 months. And I'm going to explain why that one in a moment. But all of these things are a year-long exclusivity deal. I've said it before. The reason for that is because 80% of game sales happen within the first year. Over a game's lifetime, 80% of that game sales happen then. And so that's more or less your critical mass. That's the time frame that you can pick that makes you not seem greedy, but at the same time you are chopping a huge amount of profit away from your competitors. The whole tactic here is for Epic to weaken and eventually erode away Steam. That's all it is. That's all they're doing, is just robbing them of 80% of their profits with each of these games that they get locked in. And unfortunately, what they're doing, and this is the reason why Borderlands 3 is only 6 months, is the deal that they strike with these developers, big or small, is because Epic Games has a massively smaller footprint in user base that are going to buy those games. Epic sits down with the publisher and says, okay, what are your estimated sales on this game? Okay, here's our figures for what we estimate you're going to sell on the game. And essentially they say, we're going to pay you upfront the amount of money that you would have gotten had it been on Steam versus on Epic. They're more or less paying upfront that gap in that difference. You would have sold twice as many copies if it would have been on Steam versus Epic. Well, we'll cover that extra 100% of sales, pay you that up front to cover the gap. With a game like Borderlands 3 that is going to sell massive amounts of copies, well, Epic probably couldn't feasibly afford to pay for the year-long exclusivity. And that's why I think it was a 6-month exclusivity deal, is that Randy, fuck you, Pitchford, was like, well, we're going to sell tons of copies of this game, so you're going to have to pay out the ass. And Epic didn't want to do that. Despite the fact Tim Sweeney was, under Randy's desk, fiddling with him while they were making that deal. I have no respect for either. I have no respect for either of those gentlemen, and that I think I've made pretty fucking clear.
I mean, but who's the bigger piece of shit? I'm going with Randy Pitchford.
Pitchford does have a bit more of a history of being a jackass.
So here's my thing, is that Randy Pitchford, everybody knows he's a jackass, right? Tim Sweeney has this, some people have this misconception that he is actually a nice and helpful guy. It's like he tries to play like he's an everyman. He got the big old thick glasses, like he's like, oh, I'm a nerd just like you guys. Guy has billions of fucking dollars. He's not just like you. Guy probably has 3 fucking houses and owns his own private fucking helicopter. He is not like you.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out there.
He got beat up in high school a lot too.
I said, I want to point out there to anybody that thinks that Tim Sweeney's just an everyman who's just like them, who's just a passionate about making games. No, he's a billionaire fucking CEO of a massive multi-billion-dollar corporation. He is not like you or me. He's on a different level, and people have to recognize that everything he says publicly on Twitter or in an interview on a news magazine is a PR campaign. He doesn't have that luxury. It's actually kind of sad to me, and I've ran into a lot of executives that have expressed that they hate that every time they talk publicly, it's a PR campaign that they have to constantly hit specific points. They're not allowed to say what they want anymore. They've lost freedom as a result of being a public CEO like this. So,
well, public figures like this makes me think of when we were talking about people getting laid off earlier. David Vonderhaar. He is the creative mind behind the Call of Duty Black Ops series. He was basically the man at Treyarch. Earlier this week, he got let go because he said something about Trump. He said some real shit about Trump on Twitter. And they let him go about it. Because, yeah, you are the face of that. And regardless of how you feel about it, it was all facts.
You can't
do that. It was politically incorrect.
It doesn't matter. It's not even political.
Unless, of course, you're Trump, then you can get away with saying any kind of shit on Twitter. People eat
the thing is that it's not so much about politically incorrect or the wrong political affiliation. Most corporations want to avoid any insinuation of political bias whatsoever, because let's say there's one particular political party of president that's in office right now, right? And you say, oh man, this other political party are a bunch of jackasses and don't know anything and are stupid or whatever, make some politically charged things at the opposing party. Well, guess what? What if the next president is of that party? Now you're having to backtrack and backpedal so that that president doesn't push to regulate your industry more. And that's what they're all doing. They're all playing that game so that they don't get regulated by the government. Which,
well, I mean, and even
is kind of what's happening.
To add on to that, you got to think about it. Like, this goes back to what Rose was talking about a few weeks ago. What was it? Rainbow politics, I think is what you called it. Rainbow marketing. Where
rainbow capitalism.
Rainbow capitalism. Yeah, where if you piss off any one particular group, and it doesn't matter which group it is, then you have to worry about, is that group going to support me? They can be significant groups. Like, for example, Black folks always talk about boycotting something because they say something. They said somebody at a company said something and we didn't like it, so we boycotting all that shit. And nobody really boycotts their shit; they just say it.
So, to bring it back around to the story on here, that's one of the things that the developer of Dark was very specific and he was trying to avoid. He's essentially like, I'm just trying to get this platform off the ground. I would rather not start off in the games industry by closing doors. Right?
Yeah.
I like it.
He specifically wants to put his foot forward, being inclusive to everybody and not saying, oh, screw this guy. No, he wants to be like, hey, I want to be in the games industry for a long time, and I want to make sure that I keep my options open and not doing anything specific or make any actions that could burn bridges.
And although that motion is most likely very self-interest, trying to build up a good name, but as a result of that, it's effectively being more pro-consumer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not he's intentionally being pro-consumer or not, it has that effect at this time.
Well, it is pro-consumer, and it is a pro-consumer mindset, but from his perspective, there's a different term that he uses: credibility. And that is very much the key to, I feel like, what he's getting at is that he wants to establish credibility of his studio and his brand. And if he's the first action he's doing as a studio and as a brand is to tell gamers that, like, for the example, the Ooblets dev, if they were first time developers or whatever, their first action was essentially insulting consumers and telling them and patronizing them, that's not a good look. That's
No,
not
it's
how you
not.
gain traction in the market. You have to essentially
I mean,
play nice, you know?
yeah, you can't even
Yeah.
do that as an established developer. Like,
Yeah.
because people will boycott your shit.
Yeah. Yeah. you
As
will.
it's already happening.
Yeah. Well,
I
the thing
think-
is,
Well, kind of happening. Like, I'm actually surprised that, they had that boycott Borderlands 3 movement, and a lot of people don't care. They're just like, I don't care. I just want to play Borderlands.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter, what Gearbox or Randy Pitchford says. They're gonna play.
And that's been the way with the Borderlands franchise, right? People are completely blind to anything Randy Pitchford has done. I mean, let's be honest. Gearbox could have technically have just tanked entirely from Aliens Colonial Marines for how bad that game was. That's where we were talking about the internet never forgets, but has a short attention span.
Well, there's so much shit
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes the internet doesn't even pay attention. Like, look at all these we have so many shootings in America, for example, what happens. We get like one, I think they said every like day and a half now at this point, which is kind of off topic.
That's
but
desensitization.
we're at the point
It's not
people aren't
just-
even paying attention to them. We forget the last one because there's a new one happening today.
So I want to
Yeah.
point out that I feel like that whole thing is a little bit skewed. I think that you are seeing more media coverage of these shootings and how often they are because they're sensationalist and they get people watching. Because back in the 90s, Kev, you know just as well as I were, there were shootings like every 5 fucking minutes in some cities. Like, you're talking South Central, you're talking Youngstown, you're talking Pittsburgh, you're talking New York. Like, these cities had shootings every fucking 5 minutes. Nobody talked about those.
Right.
That's because they were
Yeah.
inner city poor kids. Nobody cares about them.
Well, yeah, a lot of that,
Yeah.
and also going back to, granted, it was huge news at the time, but going back to Mafia days where they had gang wars.
That's
or
what I'm
Mafia
talking about.
wars. Yeah, same thing. Like it dates way the fuck back,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. But whenever it's either actual criminals killing criminals or people assuming that it's criminals killing criminals, they care a lot less. Whereas,
that's
what we
that's
have
part of the
now
problem
is
too. We had the problem in the '90s where you're black, you're a criminal.
yeah. Well, that's why I said assume. They
Mhm.
assume it's criminals killing criminals, even though that's a lot of that was not the case. It was just people
Right.
that were too poor to be able to get the fuck out of the combat zone.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing, though, is that I just want to say that shootings haven't necessarily increased, but I notice that there is a lot of. I don't want to say this. I want to avoid getting into too much politics because I feel I have a lot of opinions on the media coverage side of it, not necessarily the incidents themselves, but the media coverage side of it. That I think that you really shouldn't probably get into on your goes way
Gonna
off
rub
of
people the wrong way.
yeah, it's gonna rub people the wrong way whenever I start talking about media bias and media strategy. So
I mean,
Then
I thought
it's
the
kind of
media
out
bias
of our
was against
scope.
Xbox.
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
media bias is only against Xbox.
So in any case, my thought is now one of the things that I'm really hopeful for, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on this, is this guy writing up this very well-intentioned, very articulate piece on what is going, like why he made this decision. Do you think this will maybe encourage some others to similarly follow in these footsteps and also publicly announce it for like internet brownie points, if you will?
Possible.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think
think
it
so.
will. The other thing is it's good that, well, he confirmed a lot of what we've been suspecting for a while, that they were buying the exclusivity, and even if you were an indie dev, you couldn't release on other game or other platforms, even if you didn't take their money.
Yeah, and that's
So
Well,
they've
if you didn't
confirmed
take
a
the money,
lot.
they can't really stop you.
yeah. Well, the thing is that so here's the thing: is that if I'm making a game, I can't just release on the Epic Game Store. They are a very when they say curated, they don't mean curated like what curation actually means. Essentially, what they mean is that they are not widely allowing anybody to publish. You can't even, as far as I understand, I don't even think you can submit to have your game published on the Epic Game Store. All that you can do right now is you can put out your game, announce it publicly, and then if you are lucky / unlucky, depending on your viewpoint, Epic will reach out to you with an offer.
That's what it was.
Yeah.
Dark. Going back to Dark, it wasn't pre-orders. It was wishlisted. It was like one of the most wishlisted games, and that's why Epic sniped them. That's why are poaching. That's why I made that reference, and I get the feeling that's a lot of the things that started out is being advertised on Steam became Epic exclusives after the fact, as Epic is scouring Steam's top wish list, top pre-order, shit like that, and they're trying to poach those publishers.
And
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, that seems definitely that seems definitely to me a very deliberate tactic, because here's the thing is, and to be fair, with their curation that they call it, this is, to me, it is a smart strategy. So instead of them saying, hey, we're just going to shotgun and let all the games onto our platform, instead they're deliberately, like, instead of firing a machine gun, they're firing a sniper rifle. Yeah, they're picking and choosing very specific weak point targets. And what I mean by that is that targets that, if sniped, will deal a massive amount of potential damage for each target. Instead of saying, hey, here's a little nobody game that wants to release on Epic Game Store, we don't give a fuck about them, they're not going to do anything. But hey, here's Dark. It's a top wish listed game, which means chances are, even though most of those people may not buy the game on their wish list, but still, law of averages, there is going to be a percentage of those people that buy that game, which means that game does have some potential for success. Therefore, we want to grab that game. Here's...
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, there is a little bit of a counter to that. That is the majority of what they've been doing, but the slight counter to that would be the Division 2. Because
the Division 2 is still better on Uplay, though.
Well, here's the thing: is a as a Universal store, it is for Universal stores, it is an Epic exclusive. Whereas Uplay, yeah, it's still available on there because they can't really say two shits about that. If they got an EA game or if they got a Bethesda game, it would still be available on their stores too, because Epic would not be able to say boo on that. It is their own shit. And the thing is there's a possibility. I don't know the details on the back end of the way EA runs or Epic runs their shit, but there's a possibility that these developers could say, sell the game independently on their own. They just wouldn't have the massive word out like, say, the Division 2 on Uplay. That they have that clout that they could say, hey, we still have it on our store. Everybody come here. Whereas the developer of Dark doesn't have that. It would have to rent out server space, and start up a website to try and do something like that.
Yeah.
What wave bend in chat?
Yeah.
Is it me, or do Xaiphen and Morty look like brothers? No. There's no resemblance there whatsoever.
I already spilled the beans. Sorry.
No, I think
I take personal offense to that.
Yeah. In any case, though. So the other point on here is that, so something I've noticed that a lot of what Epic has been kind of hinging on is that they have been playing this kind of two-pronged media front, right? On the one hand, they're saying we're good for developers, and on the other hand, they're also trying to say that, hey, we're trying to expand the competition on the distribution market. So these two pieces of their media blitz that they're running, which aren't conflicting. Those are two separate points that kind of go in tandem. And the releasing of the information that they are actively saying that they are not allowing indies to ship a game that is approved for the Epic Store. They're not allowing it to ship everywhere. Definitely counteracts the first and the second of those points. Would you guys agree with that? I think I stumped him. with a really
Yeah.
weird formed question.
You did.
Yeah.
Watching me come out.
Let me rephrase that,
Yeah.
because that did come out really funny. So the way that the Epic presents themselves is being good for developers and expanding competition, right? This announcement, or this reveal that the Dark game, that essentially they want to buy the game and not let it release elsewhere. They say that it's not available. Would you guys agree that that is both bad for developers and also not expanding the competition in the distribution market?
Oh, it
Absolutely.
doesn't expand it at all.
Yeah.
It's terrible for the distribution.
Because, you know, there's been a more or less, we have a pretty good idea, but not full facts of that they are locking down competition with exclusivity. I mean, well, there's some facts, but we don't know if it's in a set of absolutes or if they're just paying enough money that people are saying sure. Whereas this case it brings a hard reveal. It's not a money factor. It's a, hey, if you want to sell on Epic, you have to sell only on Epic, unless you're big enough that you can say fuck you, like Cyberpunk 2077.
And there's other games that make me kind of shaky on it too, like Metro Exodus. It had that big deal. It was the first Epic exclusive to have really a big deal made about it, and now it's available on the Windows Store. It's been available on the Windows Store for about a month, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how far does their exclusivity go? Maybe they've revised the contracts. I don't know.
They may have
Maybe
varying contracts.
or Deep Silver might just be big enough to say fuck you.
Deep Silver is.
Yeah.
Well, you know who's backing Deep Silver, right? THQ Nordic.
Tencent.
No, THQ
There
Nordic.
we go, THQ. That makes sense.
Well, THQ's dead. THQ Nordic is the company that came in and swooped up all of THQ's IP.
Oh, I still call them THQ.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, like not it. And on the other front, you know, locking out competition also bad for developers. In the case of this guy that's trying to make a name for himself, that is already put a foot out there saying, "Hey, I'm going to be available. Have this game available on GOG and Steam." And if you know he had accepted this deal, they would have probably been an NDA that said, "Hey, you can't say that. You know, you have to just all of a sudden say, oh, yep, we're an Epic exclusive," and not give away background details like he was able to since he refused the deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is
that
bad for
goes-
developers too. It's bad on both fronts.
Mhm.
But that goes back into my point where I said that they can't say that an email is just confidential. It's just that contract afterward that might make it confidential, and that might be why
Yes.
we haven't had any confirmation till this point.
I suspect very highly as much. Now, the thing is, and this is
Keep in
something.
mind, too, businesses do that all the time.
Yes.
They'll have in the signature, any conversation between us is confidential.
Yeah.
And they try to use that as a legally binding contract, but it's not. It's the same way, you know, with the EULA. Oh, you agree to these terms if you hit accept to play the game. No, I don't. I can't play my game that I paid for, and I can't get a refund unless I hit accept on your EULA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is that EULAs sometimes are in shaky ground as far as the enforceability of them. But something else that I noticed on here as well is that as far as the ability for developers to talk about them, I do believe that in many cases there are key pieces that are NDA'd. However, and this is where I'm not sure. I have two possibilities. I feel like the first one is more likely. Most likely, developers that sign these exclusivity deals know that there's going to be some negative backlash and are essentially bracing themselves and immediately find themselves to be like want to justify and defend their position. And so they're kind of in that mode of like they're expecting people to get angry with them and they're already in that mindset, you know what I mean? Like whenever someone's entrenching themselves, right? So it doesn't matter what you say to them, you're not going to change their mind. They've already like dug themselves in and they're not going to move. With that said, there's also the other possibility, and I don't know how this would take shape, but we have seen stuff like this before with influencers, where part of the exclusivity deal, or part of the deal in general that you might sign, will include a clause for releasing positive publicity about the deal, right? The way that I've seen this is that we recently had information get uncovered where a publisher emailed a couple of news publications, smaller publications, not the big names out there, that essentially said, hey, you know, we would like to give you a copy of our game, and hey, wink, wink, if you say some positive things about our game, you know, maybe there's some extra stuff in it for you. Not literally as much as that, it was a little bit more suggestively worded, but it was very clear that the intention was a pay-for-play positive coverage scenario. Bribing, right?
Yeah.
And that does happen. There are many companies that will do such things very often, and you very rarely hear about them. You would be shocked at how frequently companies are paying for positive coverage from publications or from influencers of all sorts. I have a suspicion, a conspiratorial suspicion, that Epic is one of those companies that has in some way or another been influencing positive coverage about their deals. That's the way I'll phrase it, because I don't know if they're necessarily saying, hey, we'll give you $100,000 if you say good stuff about us. It may not be that clear. It may be that they're using some other means of influence in order to get positive coverage from both developers, publishers, and from news media as well. That's hard to prove.
Something to think about is this particular article about the Dark developer. How many sources was that available on gaming news sources?
Yeah,
it wasn't saying
that was not did not show up on a lot of the major sources,
like PC Gamer.
It's not going to, because they want to keep these good relationships.
Well, the thing is,
they don't want to piss off Sweender.
Well, yeah, like, because let's be honest, the PC gaming show at E3, who sponsored that?
Epic.
I don't think people realize that literally Epic is a sponsor, has a partnership sponsor deal with PC Gamer. In other words, hey, guess who's signing part of the paychecks there?
Mm-hmm.
It ain't you with your fucking ad clicks on the website. That ain't giving them shit. It's a huge, which call conflict of interest.
Yes, I think they should have stuck with should have stuck with AMD. AMD was the one who did it years prior for all the other ones. I think they should have just stuck with AMD.
Yeah. The thing is that I have opinions about the advertising industry as a whole and how it has.
Yeah, advertising industry is fucked. If we could even do one better, get these shows sponsored by like non-gaming sources. Like I love how Linus Tech Tips does it. He has sponsors on everything, but he's getting sponsors from like chip companies. And I saw one from a rug company, like a throw rug. You know, yeah, he's getting sponsors from stuff like that. Which called D Brand. They were making phone case covers or phone covers. Get those kind of brands to do it. I'm okay with the gaming show at the end of the year, of the Game Awards, and people were making fun of the Schick Razor. I'd much rather see Schick sponsoring this shit than say Xbox.
Yeah,
that's a huge conflict of interest, because now next thing you know, Halo Infinite is Game of the Year, and it's been out for a week, and it got panned by users because Microsoft paid for the show.
Yeah,
well, they still want to do somewhat related advertising. Granted that you've got a majority of the gaming community is male, and they made shave, so yeah, Schick makes a little bit of sense. But although
girls got to shave their legs.
Well,
yeah,
guys don't have to shave either. Some people choose to, some people don't. Whatever.
I mean,
but it's something
for the ladies too. My wife uses Schick.
Something which I think they actually probably. I wouldn't be surprised if they do advertise already. Mountain Dew Game Fuel.
Mountain Dew would be a good one. Yeah. Doritos.
Yeah. Have you seen? Actually, they
I'm
do.
pretty sure they already do. I haven't. I kind of lost
because
track.
I've been seeing some very, like Mountain Dew Game Fuel has become very I want to say timely in its advertisement. It seems like because I'm pretty certain that I was oh yes, I know what I was watching. Rainbow Six, one of their esports guys, sponsored by Game Fuel, I think it was. I'm pretty certain it was Rainbow Six.
I'm waiting for
you know how
somebody to be
Pepsi
sponsored by
launched.
Taco Bell. Because
You know how
when you get high, you're playing some COD, you're out of Doritos, you're out of Mountain Dew, you take your ass to Taco Bell.
Here's the truth: is that a lot of these esports gamers, though, they ain't eating Taco Bell. You know, they ain't eating nothing. They drinking Game Fuel and taking Adderall. That's what they live off.
You know what Game Fuel got to start on?
Halo. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I was.
That's where
it
came into existence. Co-advertising Halo 3.
Yeah.
So the original Game Fuel wasn't Adderall then?
No, Kev.
So in any case, to keep things moving along, since we are at 20 after 8 now, Rose, I hear you have some stuff to talk about today.
Yes. So for as much shit, and giving a shout out to Mort here because he got the story out on his Twitter before I could. And he summed it up pretty well in that for as much shit we give Epic, Steam does some shit too. And we are going to call out Steam for their bullshit today. So over the past week, there was a vulnerability that was discovered by a security researcher out of Russia called Vasily Kravitz. I think I said the last name wrong. If not, whatever. He reported a vulnerability to Steam that's a local privilege escalation. I know this is a bunch of gibberish to a bunch of people, but it essentially means that any malware that might exist on your computer can use the Steam app to gain admin rights, which can then be used to do all kinds of nasty stuff. Vasily reported the bug, the security flaw, to HackerOne, which is the organization that Steam uses, and the response was that sorry, reading my notes on my one screen. They were told that it wasn't covered under the scope of the program and not to release the details to the public. Under law, a company has 90 days to act on a reported security threat, or if they deny a security threat or just deny the report, the researcher then has the right to go public. So they went public because the report was denied. Eventually, that got them banned from the bug hunting program. They released a patch and it fixed the issue at that time, but there was a circumvention that was found by Vasily again a few hours after patch release. He couldn't release or tell them and inform them, hey, you've got a vulnerability, because he was banned. So he went straight public with it because he couldn't communicate, which again is within law. After that, they have another patch in beta right now. So the vulnerability, as we are talking about this on August 24th at 11:25 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is still there for non-beta Steam users. And poor Vasily is still banned.
Yeah, he confirmed with me after I tweeted about it that he was still banned as of.
Which,
good God, YouTube series
banning seems retarded. Okay, sorry. The banning seems very dumb. Now, the thing is, like, HackerOne.
You got the phrase right.
I'm trying to be, because there's some people, like, whether or not it's an actual offensive word, there's some people find it offensive, so I'm trying to clean it up a little bit. Foul language is one thing, but anyway, The thing is, like the idiocy behind that is HackerOne is more or less it's kind of like a bounty hunting program, because there's a lot of major
Yes.
software developers. They offer rewards for people who find security holes. Like Microsoft offers this, Google offers this, all of them. They will, you find a hole. It's even better yet if you find a way to fix it and present it to them. They give you money.
Yeah,
If you
there's
have
people
those
who
kind of
make a living
technical
off
skills,
of
these
that.
guys are known as white hat hackers typically.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're black hat, white hat. There's a kind of a mix between, but usually
the term
hat.
official term is security researchers. But yeah, unofficially they'll be called white hat hackers.
True.
But that's kind of a anyway, infosec world, that those terms have kind of fallen out of use. They call them security researchers because that's more often what they are. They're not necessarily hackers of any sort. They are just people that literally try to find ways to break stuff, which they're researching security vulnerabilities.
Yeah, it may not be necessarily a security issue. It may be just trying to break shit outright. Finding bugs. They're debuggers in a way.
Yes.
But yeah, like the thing is why would you, unless somebody is trying to abuse the program by some means, but why would presenting something get them banned? That is.
I should specify they were banned from Steam's bug hunting program.
Yeah, he still has access to HackerOne, but he doesn't have access to the Valve segment of HackerOne. So here's the thing. This is my understanding of what happened. So he reported the bug to them. The HackerOne people, not Valve, the HackerOne people more or less said, that's not covered under scope, right? Valve was in no way privy to what was going on here. This was because essentially HackerOne acts as a third-party entity, in this case. So Valve, unfortunately, had no clue what was happening here. Now, they said that it was not covered under scope because as they said it requires dropping files into an arbitrary location on the person's machine. So just to dumb it down for people about local privilege escalation, try to make it super simple like I did in my tweets on here. You all heard of ransomware, right? Everybody's heard about it at this point. It's in the news every other fucking week because school districts, government buildings, private corporations are all getting hit by ransomware. And what it is it locks down your computer, encrypts all your files so you can't access them, presents you with a screen saying, pay us money or your files will be destroyed. And it'll give them some means like a Bitcoin address or something to pay a ransom, right? You're essentially holding their files hostage and charging a ransom. And more recently, some of those ransomwares, the company will have no way of getting their files back and will pay the ransom, and the malicious person will delete the key and destroy the files anyway. And it's like, just they're never intended to even unlock the files. So and the reason why I bring up ransomware is because this has been a hot topic in my world very frequently, doing a lot of security assessments. One of the things that has become a very big channel of ransomware getting through an environment is what's known as lateral account movement. And what that is it's a strategy that a piece of bad software or a hacker or whatever will use to get access to a system. They'll essentially, for example, the example that gets used most often recently is called TrickBot, which is a malicious, what's known as a dropper. It is just a guy that will try to gain access to something and then not do necessarily anything until he's told. He's quiet, he sits there, bugs nobody. And what he'll do is he'll sit there and skim credentials from accounts on a computer that he's on. And once it gets a privileged account, or if it finds a piece of software that has a local privilege escalation vulnerability in it that's known, he will then exploit that to gain escalated rights. And what that means is, in the enterprise environment, that means instead of just being a normal everyday user that can't install software, can't do anything, now he can install software, or even worse, get access to the very necessary domain admin rights. And once you have domain admin rights, that allows you to pretty much push software onto every computer in a network. And that's bad news. That's where a whole school system gets taken down, or a whole enterprise network for a company or whatever. So whenever they say that local privilege escalation is minor, like the one thing here that that annoyed me was the bug was a local privilege escalation issue, which is not as dangerous as a remote code escalation vulnerability. The problem is that remote code escalations are usually very highly prioritized and fixed very quickly. Local privilege escalations oftentimes go completely unfixed, and that's part of the reason why ransomware is such a big problem. Is because many companies like HackerOne here are not putting a high enough priority on fixing them. At least that's from what I am hearing about doing a lot of security assessments. So
Now,
this is. Go ahead.
Now to add in, they did update the rules twice.
Yeah.
One time caused a lot of confusion, and then the second time they explicitly said, report the LPEs to us. Or local privilege escalation. Sorry, I know I used an acronym there.
Yeah.
So Steam does want them received, and now they've got rules that HackerOne has to follow in place.
Yeah.
But
So,
poor Vasily is still banned, and they said they're looking into unbanning him, but at this point they should have already. That would just be an easy.
At least as of noon yesterday, he had confirmed to me that he was still banned. I do not know if that's still the case now, but at least as of noon yesterday, he said he was. So something else that I'll note on here that makes this whole thing particularly very dangerous is essentially, and as Crevettes pointed out, this could essentially allow, let's say, a game like Warframe. Now, Digital Extremes is not a malicious entity. I am not in any way insinuating that they are in any way a malicious actor or bad people or anything like that. But a game like Warframe that has this architecture set up where what you essentially download is the launcher for the game, and then the launcher reaches out and will go and download the game, download updates or whatever, independent of Valve. Valve has no say in the content that is being downloaded from Digital Extremes, right? The problem here is that launcher has escalated privileges when it's launching. It essentially has system level access to your computer. So if, say, not Digital Extremes, but a company who has a game like Warframe that has a launcher that automatically updates the game outside of Steam, if they were to, say, themselves get hacked, someone inject malicious code into their systems, push out through that update channel, it would then infect every one of the millions of people that have Warframe installed, because this bug allows that launcher to run with system level access. And if you think that's not a problem, Google the Asus malware that got pushed out whenever Asus got hacked, and their fucking automatic updates were pushing out malware to every Asus computer on the market. It has happened.
Every Asus computer and every Asus motherboard that made use of that automatic update software, which I had not installed, fortunately, because I'm running an Asus motherboard, and I said, no, I don't need that. I'll manually update. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's something that, like, I don't think people realize how actually dangerous this problem was and how badly HackerOne fucked this up. I say Valve. And the thing is that ultimately the buck stops with Valve. Yes, HackerOne was the one at fault here, but Valve should have been taking a little bit more action and communicating more with HackerOne to make sure that they were all on the same page. Because what it sounds like is that they just gave HackerOne a basic set of, okay, here's our scope, and then let HackerOne go off and do their own thing. If you're employing...
Sounds very Valve-ish.
I'm sorry?
That sounds very Valve-ish.
Yeah, that exactly. That sounds like Valve thing. And that's, you know what? That's a problem. If you're going to have a third party
Yeah.
that's doing your bug hunting program, you need to be getting some reports from them. You need to be having periodic updates and check-ins with them to see if there's new stuff that there should be, like emergent threats or persistent threat vectors that might be causing problems. You need to talk with them about this and say, hey, what kind of stuff are people reporting to you that we might not be considering? And it doesn't sound like that conversation was literally happening.
They were relying on one-way communication, and that's not the way. When you're dealing with security, there's got to be two-way communication.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, you got to have two-way
All
communication in
communication
most aspects in life, but when it comes to security, that's an absolute necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as a result, guys, I just wanted to take this opportunity to announce we're releasing a game on Steam called This Is Totally Not a Virus. And it has its own automatic updater. I swear it does not contain any ransomware. It's just this the game, the launcher, the actual executable might be called Ryuk, but don't pay any mind to that. And then whenever you launch the game,
Does it just work?
Huh?
Does it just work, and does it have boxes of loot?
No, it just works. And so essentially, once you launch it, the splash screen of the game will say your computer has been encrypted, and then it's going to have a Bitcoin address, and then you can go ahead and deposit all of your money into that address, and then we might unlock your computer.
If you do not deposit the Bitcoin by a certain date, your computer will die this way on this day.
Yes.
So, and then it'll die 2 days earlier, just to make sure that you understand the surprise mechanics.
Surprise! Dot 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 dot. EA.
Yes, privilege escalation, also known as surprise mechanics.
Wow,
And
we brought that around.
On the Epic Store.
We brought that back around. Kev with the win. Kev has won the podcast.
On Epic.
That Kev, that was pretty glorious.
Glorious.
I just want to say that we have now turned malware into surprise mechanics, guys.
Surprise mechanics exclusive on the Epic Games Store with loot boxes.
That's loot boxes equal malware.
Yeah, I mean, but
yeah,
I kind of feel like that might be a fair assessment. Loot boxes are malware.
Can we call the Epic Games Store malware?
Can we turn that into a hashtag?
Yeah.
Hashtag loot boxes are malware.
Hashtag fuck Tim Sweeney.
I mean, we've done that one before.
Hashtag fuck Epic.
That sounds like it every time. So, in any case...
Hashtag fuck Intel.
Oh my. In any case, so something I did want to present to you guys as a talking point on here. If you are Valve at this point, because obviously Valve's major problem, I notice a lot of their issues on here is their lack of leadership at all. How do you think that Valve could better take control of the bug hunting front, but with still being able to outsource the manpower of it?
Gabe needs to hire some goons.
Well, that's the thing is they're already outsourcing the manpower. They're doubling it. They're contracting with a company that outsources the manpower. Well, why do you need that middle ground company? Just offer the rewards direct. Microsoft offers rewards direct. Why can't they? Unless they're so understaffed that they can't even set up an automation, system to check.
How do you automate that?
Hey, this looks like it's high risk. Let's answer this one.
To be fair, honestly, the thing is that I definitely don't think that I think Valve is in this position where they're not small per se. They have a few hundred employees, but I think that Valve has a lot more money than they do employees, and as a result, they spend a lot of time outsourcing stuff.
They spend a lot of time outsourcing. The thing is they also spend a lot of manpower and development, development projects as well. Because you got to look at shit that people. Yeah, well, it's on rare occasions they've made games.
They don't make
But,
free
you know,
games.
they've got continual development for the Steam store, which is slow, but it does get developed. They've also got a lot of hardware development that they work on too.
Yeah.
This sounds like damage control, sir.
I think
Maybe
so,
it is. I think they're just
fanboy.
understaffed, and I think they have the money for better staffing.
So I will be clear on
Steam
here.
fanboy, sir.
One of the reasons why I think that they leverage HackerOne specifically is because one of the key pieces that HackerOne offers is it essentially presents to you an established network of about 200,000 resources. Which is something that otherwise is a little bit difficult to try to build that infrastructure up yourself. It's why a lot of times people use outsourcing for anything else. You know, it's like a major enterprise outsourcing a call center for their customer support. Yes, they could do it themselves, but building up the infrastructure for a call center, the VoIP phone systems, training the employees, offering benefits to the employees, and all of the support systems around them is a lot more expensive than just paying a rate of some sort to a third-party company to host a petri dish shit farm where a bunch of people are answering calls, usually in a third world country where they're getting paid nothing. But yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So here's an alternative to more or less enhance that infrastructure already there. Is if for some reason HackerOne drops the ball, Valve should open up a limited scope but still accessible point of communication direct to Valve in case that happens, where somebody can say, hey, I tried going through this company that you contracted for, but I feel that they are not taking this as seriously as it should be. It's something that they will actually, a route that they can actually listen to and look at that and like, oh, holy shit, this is bad.
Yeah, the thing is that HackerOne, by the way, they offer bounties for Facebook, Google, Apple, Microsoft, Twitter.
Oh, okay.
Tons of others. So essentially, you got to see it as they're a back-end infrastructure to bug hunting programs. It's not necessarily that it's exclusive. Like Microsoft doesn't use HackerOne exclusively. It's just one avenue. Now, this is where the complication I could see come in, right? If I am trying to outsource this, an idea I might have is for example, just have a staff member create an account on HackerOne and periodically check in and see the stuff that's being reported on the Valve segment of HackerOne, right? And that might make sense.
That actually, that's a good one.
But what if there's 6
would
different programs running, not just HackerOne, but Hacker 2, 3, and 4, whatever the other programs might be out there, that gets a little bit difficult, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not if you have
one
hired
thing-
goons.
Yeah. Hired goons.
The
You like
problem
2K.
Hired
with
goons smack
Steam,
everybody.
the problem with Steam is, if we are to believe the one Dota 2 article that you shared a couple weeks back, they don't have dedicated staff to any one thing. They are all staff that go, oh, I want to stick my dick over here, or I want to get involved in this. And the problem is you can't do that with security.
No, you need dedicated.
I just banged on my desk.
Yes. Yeah.
You need dedicated people to this profession. You can't just outsource it, because those dedicated people would be calling HackerOne and whoever the fuck else they've got doing their bug hunts and getting these updates.
Let's look at it this
And
way.
yes, I'm a little pissed.
You look at
Love
a
it.
bank, a high value bank. For security in the bank, do they pull one of the tellers, throw a firearm in their hand, and say, watch the door? No, they hire a fucking security company that is specialized in that,
they don't specialize in that shit.
industry.
I was working security at a bank without a gun at like 21 years old, no training.
That was a bad fucking example.
You're a deterrent.
I know.
That was great, Kev. Good job, Kev. But no, so
thanks for shooting me down, asshole.
Yeah.
Actually, it's funny, the bank got robbed on my day off.
No. What was the story I tweeted out to
I'm
someone? Never mind. You know what? That's sidetracking about the guy that got out of prison for robbing a bank, and that day he got out of prison, he tried to rob the same bank.
Yeah.
That's a Darwin Award runner-up right there.
Yeah.
Back.
Oh
Epic
man.
fail. That's L of the day.
Yeah. No, this was years ago. It wasn't in Florida, I'm pretty certain, but it might as well been Florida. You know, it's one of those stories.
You know what? I'm sure it happened in Florida anyway.
Yeah, that's true. In any case, so something that's now this is what I'm not sure of. So that article that we saw about Valve that pretty much said that yes, Valve has no real leadership structure. It's just a bunch like their hierarchy is flat, right? There are no managers or bosses there. Although I'm sure that Gaben is above all that. Gabe Newell gets his billions of dollars as the CEO, but but then gets out of the actual leadership. He just collects the paycheck of a CEO, but gets out of the actual leadership part of being a CEO by essentially having this quote unquote flat hierarchy, which essentially, from what I understand, essentially all the developers pretty much just kind of somebody has an idea and they have to go and convince other people that that's a good idea in order to get those other people to come work with them.
They don't have to convince. I don't think they convince investors.
No. Other team members.
Yeah, they don't. Well, this is a list. They don't convince investors. They don't convince the CEO. They don't convince consumers. They have to convince their coworkers.
Yeah, which, to be honest with you, I kind of, in a certain way, I like that idea a little bit because essentially, if you give an idea, it opens you up to criticism and challenge whenever you have an idea, and that's how you suss out weaknesses in any sort of plan, right? So I kind of like that. If you have to convince other people to try to work on a project with you, that means that you're going to really suss out a lot of stuff, or maybe not, and it doesn't happen. In any case,
mean, like, if it weren't for that, then the Steam controller would have a fucking trackball in it.
Yeah, right. But in any case, the thing is that that's the developers. I'm pretty confident that there's probably infrastructure personnel that are not operating like that. It's just the face of Valve that you don't see, that's probably in the basement of that building that you don't see on the tour because they get shoved in the basement and ignored by the rest of the company because they're not important. They're not making games or developing for Steam or anything like that. They are just the people that keeps the entire company running. You know, not important at all.
They're trolls in a more classic terminology.
Yeah,
you know, the troll's hiding under the bridge, but you don't realize the troll is holding up the fucking bridge.
Yeah, well, the thing is that because my thought on here, and I've seen a lot of companies that do that, the software companies especially, the developers are like divas or like superstars and pretty much have like the most crazy structures that you can imagine. Like, I love... God, don't even get me started on how many companies want to claim that they're agile nowadays because it's a fucking buzzword. And guess what? I'm sorry if you think that you're fucking agile, but you are not built from the top to the bottom as agile. You're not agile. You just want to have small teams that don't work efficiently. That's what you want to do. Anyway, that said, you know, and that's a lot of companies like that. But the thing is that will be the development side of the house. The infrastructure side of the house usually is more traditional and not as crazy and out there as in their structures. And I think that Valve probably has some sort of infrastructure team that we never hear about, because while I know they use Akamai, whatever the hell that company is called, for their content delivery network, I still think that they have their own server infrastructure of some sort, which means you need to have people managing that infrastructure. And probably on that infrastructure side, you probably also have security personnel. But I think those security personnel are only worried about the actual internal infrastructure, not the product. The product itself is handled by HackerOne. And that's something I
Yeah.
see with a lot of companies, is the external product is not covered by the internal information security team. Welcome to the wonderful world of all that fun enterprise IT stuff that none of you care about. We love you guys. That's why we tell you all this. So, needless to
And
say,
that's
guys.
why we're the professionals.
Yeah. Needless to say, guys, I do want to use this as a PSA. Be cautious of things that you might download. Suspicious looking games from Steam. Do not download those, at least until you see something, an update from Valve that says, hey, we fixed the bug, because that vulnerability currently is in place right now. And since it was publicly disclosed, it is out on the internet, which means malicious folks that might not have known about this in any other way now know about it and can potentially utilize it. Also want to take a moment to say, hey, stop going to suspicious websites. Stop clicking on every fucking link in your email inbox, okay? If it's not from somebody you know.
In my area.
Right? No, I got one today from Amazon.
I've got $10 million from this Nigerian prince.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
No, you know how many dead Nigerian relatives I have? I don't know if there's anybody left alive in that country. Holy shit.
And they're all royalty. It's amazing.
Yeah, I know. Like, the entire country is royalty, and they're all dead.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't even know how that works. So, no, I got this.
Like, my spam box has thousands of dead Nigerian relatives.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to go through my spam folder because I'm wondering.
I had a dead cousin in London, but they tried to send me money for it, and I almost got caught up with it. I'm like, wait, London? Like, really?
So,
slightly different.
So couple things on here, dude. This is great. I'm gonna get to these in a moment. So first of all, I got this guy slipped through the my spam filter on my Outlook email, and I actually got this one. Reply summary Amazon is available. Daily email report. Authentication accounts confirmation of your payment on blah 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 for Horizon Hobby LLC. No idea what the fuck this is, but there's this Word document in there. Amazon Service Center.x. Oh, I should open this, right? No.
I don't know why you opened the email.
No, it popped up. I just saw the email, and there's nothing wrong with opening up the email. It's the attachment that gets you.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
If you have not specific, no, they can't do that anymore. Browser based, you can't, like. They have now made it to where it is extremely difficult, thanks to places like HackerOne or hackathons in general. It has become very difficult to escape the virtualization of a browser. You can do it, but it requires jumping through so many fucking hoops that can't be done from an email. But in any case, though, yeah, just has a Word document. Sometimes I almost want to spin up a VM and open up one of those just to see what happens.
Yes.
This is how my brain works.
I've done that before. It's fun.
No, the other one on there, interestingly enough,
when I was fucking around with VMs, I actually have done that.
Well, so I want
to. The one I tested out was not as severe as I was hoping it would be.
Well, I just want to point out that I also got this. I'm looking at these spam mailboxes. So here's one that's actually legit good. I like this. This is very talented. Totally a scam. But it says, I know your password is, and then it gives a partial password. And the reason why is because it's a partially decoded hash. It doesn't have the full password. But it's trying to get you scared because you see something you recognize. It's not a password I use anymore. It's old, and it's probably a password that was pwned years ago. It says, your computer was infected by my malware, RAT, remote access tool. And your browser wasn't updated or patched. In such case, it's enough to visit some website where my iframe is placed to get automatically infected. If you want to find out more, Google drive-by exploit. And then it goes through and gives a whole bunch of stuff, and then it says, transfer exactly $1,400 with the current Bitcoin price to my Bitcoin address. and then it gives you all this information. It's essentially just scareware, what that's called.
Now that's another thing to clarify your point on being a little cautious on the internet. Don't be paranoid when you see, because there's some websites that's either sometimes it's aggressive advertising, sometimes it's actually a malicious link that'll pop up, and it almost feels like it takes over your browser. Warning, warning, warning! Your computer's been infected. It makes it look like it's something coming from your computer, not your browser, and then we'll end up linking you to infecting yourself with malicious software. I fixed multiple computers where people have clicked on that shit because they got scared about it. So that's the thing, is like, if you're just running on your browser, that's not on your computer when that happens.
Yep.
Know your most of you are running Windows out there. Know the warnings that pop up for Windows itself. Windows 10 is very clear and concise with that notification bar. If it's not coming from that, it's not coming from your computer. Or it's not coming from Windows itself. It's coming from the web browser, and it's a scam. Apple, I'm sure, has a similar system, and I believe Linux does too, to a certain extent, depending on your flavor of Linux.
Yeah. And the thing is that, as I tell everybody, think slow. Stop. Take a breath. Relax. Don't do anything hasty, because almost all of these scams or malware, everything like that, requires people to be acting fast and not paying attention. Slow down and take a breath, and then take a good gander. Like that scam email that I talked about from Amazon, like the display name is like Amazon service account, but if you actually look at the email address that it came from, it's like
it's a bunch of fucking nonsense.
Yeah, it's a bunch of nonsense. It is clearly not from Amazon. It's
a randomly generated address.
Exactly.
And that's the thing is, there was a reference I heard recently, and I can't remember exactly what YouTuber I heard it from. I don't know if they coined the phrase or if it came from before that. Humans have two brains: monkey brain, which is reactionary, and human brain, which is conscious and actually thinks it through. Try and react with your human brain. We are all humans. Doesn't matter what other aspects you have about your life. We're all humans. Yeah. Well, except for those of us who are meat popsicles.
I am a
me.
Popsicle. God, I need to go watch
that Fifth Element reference in there because it's
on Hulu. It is on Hulu. I need to go back and watch it again, because awesome. that is one of the all-time best movies.
I love movies that are beautifully edited.
Yeah. It's a classic that stands the test of time.
Cuts in there is like where it cuts from one scene to another, where somebody asks a question in completely different scene and characters, answers that question, and is so smoothly cut, transitions through it, and then it goes back and forth between the two. I love awesomely edited movies. Yeah. Like again, Memento is an awesomely edited movie. You got movies that get like, that's the thing, is like people are all like, oh, this character or this writing or this actor or something like that. Like that can be well and good, but when the editing is the ultimate tool. Like there was I can't remember what the comedian's name was, but Andy Dick. It was an Andy Dick movie. It was just ridiculous, but he kept saying throughout the whole movie, "We'll get it in post. We'll get it in post." And while they were in post, "We'll get it in post." Like, this is post, but there's a lot of magic that can actually be done in post, and that can make or break a movie. And post is, editing is a long and expensive process, and that's where you got movies with good budgets can turn out very fucking beautiful because of that.
Yeah, so real quick to Morris Minor in the chat, he said he had once, when he was on Vista watching an anime, and a screen came up saying the police had been informed and to pay to unlock the PC. He turned it off and on again, took him back to the same screen, and I just opened in safe mode and it loaded back up. So what that is called was the kiosk mode exploit. And what it would do is it would inject into, like, the kind of malware would infect your browser, inject a malicious website that would show up with that web page. Nothing bad, just a web page that hopes you get scared and click on the links. But and then it would set that web page to load up in Internet Explorer's kiosk mode, which, if you're not familiar with kiosk mode, it's full screen and takes over your computer. The idea of kiosk mode is for a Windows computer to be used as a kiosk where people are only able to interact with a website and not the operating system itself. So it's full screen and it's not able to be minimized or alt tabbed out of, that sort of thing. And that was something very, very popular in Vista and early Windows 7 for that matter. It actually
because Vista was trying to and Windows 7 was a variant of Vista, honestly. Well, Vista was a stopgap for Windows 7.
Exactly. Windows 7 was started first.
Systems, much like Win 2000 and Win XP, if I remember right, and Win 8 and Win 10. Those were sister systems, more or less. Win 8 was an early version of Win 10.
Yeah, well, essentially, what it is,
and very rudimentary, of course.
Well, they essentially with Vista and 7, they started developing Windows 7 first, and essentially when it was half done, they just filled in the incomplete parts with Windows XP pieces, and that was Vista. It was literally a Frankenstein between the half-completed Windows 7 and filled in the gaps with Windows XP. And that's why it was janky.
What I was trying to make about Vista and 7 is they were building those more as a, they're still the universal computer system, but have a lot more media aspect to them, making them a lot more media focus-centric machines with those full screen launch on start aspects behind it.
Yeah. But in any case, as we ramble on here, and Kev is falling asleep at this point. He's like, "Oh, you guys are talking information."
Wrap it up. Y'all keep talking.
Yeah, he's like, "You guys are talking information security and all that shit." I'm tuned out. He's on Twitter. He's like just chatting to people on Twitter. Kev, final thoughts. Hey, don't you have something to show?
I don't show. I haven't showed anything.
No.
You show your own page.
No. Didn't you do some new videos?
Oh, so you want to be PC gamer video?
Yeah, tell us about that a little bit. Why should we watch that?
It's exactly what it sounds like. If you're interested in getting some information about PC gaming, about getting started in it, it's a series that started. I'm actually uploading the second video as we speak.
That's why his fucking quality is so bad.
That would explain it.
Okay.
It's only been uploading for the last 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Damn it.
No, I think
we shouldn't have said something.
That's okay. But yeah, so if any of you guys curious about, any of you guys that are playing on consoles and interested in making the transition to PC gaming, go check out Kev's YouTube channel, youtube.com/GloriousKev. And he's got a video currently up about, I think it was some pros and cons. I watched it earlier this week.
It was just preliminary thoughts, like what you kind of want to consider.
Yeah.
When you first get in there, like what games you want to play, what frame rate resolutions you might be looking at, how much do you want to spend, and then in this next video, I'm going through like some preliminary builds to kind of give you the idea of what kind of hardware you will be looking at different price points.
That's cool stuff. Guys, go check that out if you're curious and you want to look into more PC gaming stuff. Xaiphen, final thoughts.
Final thoughts is I am fucking slow. I'm suffering from
You're overcomplicating everything. What are you talking about?
I'm overcomplicating. I'm right into a little bit of a lull trying to do up my bit about future proofing, so that's still hanging in the air right there because I ran into a little bit of a sticking point on that. Eventually I get past that and get it put up somewhere.
Yep. There's that new website that we were thinking about putting it up on. Yes, minds.com, I think is what it is.
Yeah. It'll probably end up there, and if I can figure out other avenues on a way to present it, I'll work on that too. Yeah. It will not likely come out on Twitter other than as a link, just because it's not easy to break up to Twitter format.
Yes. Good God.
I thought you'd suggested that, and I looked at that. It's like this doesn't work in that way.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Rose, final thoughts.
Looking forward to fleet carriers in December for
Looking forward to Doom Eternal.
Hey,
That's what you should have been
you
saying.
guys didn't give me a chance to talk for Gamescom, so I'm going to throw it in here.
Oh, damn it.
My fault.
Yeah, you guys forget about me too easily.
Who are you?
Forgot about me during the security thing, though. Security is not my wheelhouse. I'll talk some networking with you. That's about it.
Other than that, taking a bit of a break from Elite Dangerous right now. Need it.
I
Playing
convinced you
Dragon
to
Age
play
Inquisition.
earlier today for a little bit.
Yeah, you guys were mad at me since I have a very efficient murder machine.
Yeah, I thought like,
That's
oh, my ship's getting a little bit badass. No, it isn't. No,
I
it isn't.
come in there and I wreck the field.
I like, okay, I had one enemy to take out of this group. I took out that enemy. Rose had already taken out 3 or 4 by that time. Like, all right, I'm going to start shooting at the shit she is. I target lock one, blown up. Target lock another one. That one's blown up too. What the fuck? All right, you know what? I got to go. I got errands to run.
Yeah, I got Xaiphen to rage quit.
Yeah, that wasn't a rage quit. That was like inadequacy quit.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I'm way too outclassed here. This is just not.
That wasn't rage. That was a
embarrassment.
Embarrassment. Yeah, that was just like a. Okay, I'm gonna go now.
Well, my invite still stands. We can do a Hazres site someday. There will be plenty to kill, as Mort's found out.
Yeah, I kill a few things. Rose does most of the killing, and then I just clean up all the mats.
Yeah, I need to do that. I need the mats.
Anyway,
just let me know when, and we'll do it.
Yeah. So, break from Elite Dangerous for now. Fleet Carrier's coming out. Anything else?
Nope.
Humble Bundle has a Total War sale. Get Total War.
That's a good show.
Eh.
Humble Bundle's for a good cause.
Yeah, Humble Bundle is good people. And
Yeah,
yes, Total War cannot come with a highness enough recommendation. I've literally been playing that game since I played Rome 1, I played Medieval 1. God, I had Medieval 1 back on Windows XP. Man, like I got sucked into that game. I don't remember if Xaiphen remembers that or not, but
I remember that. I say with the rare exception of if you just can't for some reason get into strategy games.
I'm just like, you guys know me.
I'm not good at thinking that much.
You guys know me. I'm not one to put like hundreds of hours into most games, unless it's like Dragon Age. Mass
You got
Effect.
more time into Total War than I've got in Warframe.
Bullshit. I only have 160 hours in 3 Kingdoms.
That's a lie.
Yeah, but that's the point I'm getting at. I have 160 hours in 3 Kingdoms. Keep in mind it came on Memorial Day weekend, which is a lot for me. And then Warhammer 2, which I've been playing most of this year, I have 153 hours in. And my next closest game that I got day 1 was Fallout 4 with 75 hours. So I've doubled Total War in less than a year than what I've done with Fallout 4 in like 3-4 years.
It's impressive since Kev never plays a game that long, except for the ones we run on the game stream.
Severe ADD.
Well, I have. Well, I mean, it depends on the game. Like, I think I have close to 200 hours in Andromeda.
Yeah.
Most of it's multiplayer.
Because I want to say, I'm trying to remember.
Because I was the only one that kept playing it.
Once upon a time, I used to think 200 hours was a lot.
Kev, to be fair, I still have one more hour in. I have 219 hours. Kev has 218 hours in Andromeda. You need to load up the game for 2 hours, Kev. Just leave it sit on the title screen for 2 hours, just so you can say you played it more than me.
Start after the game, look at it, think about it, like, nope, uninstall.
And yeah, no.
And here I am with 1,226 hours in Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, but the difference between me and you guys tend to focus on like 1 or 2 games and play them a lot. I play a lot more games than you guys do.
That's what happens when you start getting into games like that are like those strategy games. They just suck up time and time and time.
Games that legitimately have a reason, that give you a reason to come back.
Problem
I have with a lot of games is they don't give you a reason to come back. Like, you beat it once, you beat it twice, You get your fill out of it. I love stuff like Uncharted and Tomb Raider, but there's no reason for me to have 100 hours in Tomb Raider.
I mean, to be fair, something like, for example, Frostpunk, and there's nothing wrong with this, by the way. Frostpunk, 20, 30 hours in that game, you've pretty much done everything that you need to do in that game. And you know what? That's fine.
Yeah.
Frostpunk is fucking amazing. If you haven't tried it, and you like city sim or strategy games, try it. It's an amazing game. Love the aesthetic. It's just a great game. But it's only like 20 or 30 hours. Because that's really all the amount it takes to really get the full extent of the experience out of it.
Meanwhile, while I'm playing Three Kingdoms, that's like 20, 30 hours is like a campaign with one character.
Barely. I mean, it's shit. I spent like 50, 60 hours in Warhammer 2 on one campaign.
The Warhammer 2 campaigns are longer.
Yeah, especially
Mortal
Empires.
Mortal Empires.
Yeah,
especially if you're doing Mortal Empires. Three Kingdoms, the map is a lot smaller.
Yeah,
and it's more so hit this point, get enough prestige. You get prestige by taking over kingdoms or by vassalizing and having people under you and stuff like that. And it's a matter of kind of just a waiting game. And then once you get to the point where three of us can claim the emperor, kill off the other emperors. So versus Warhammer 2, a domination victory can be like 300, 400 times.
Yeah, and just as a not quick enough. All right, there we go. And just as Jesus, that took up the whole screen, and that doesn't even work. I forgot about that. Never mind. So in any case, whenever you deal, there's a lot of games like that suck up a lot of time, and they feel good about it. One of the things that there are some games that just pad out the time. That's one of the problems I had with
Ubisoft.
Andromeda. Yes, yeah, Ubisoft games too. But Andromeda, one of the things I hated about that single player of that game, like I want to say that about 100 hours of my 220-ish hours in that game was on single player. The first one I spent, I think, about 60 hours on the first playthrough, and that was sort of experiencing everything. That was like kind of sticking mostly to the main quest with a few side quests, not really completionist. The second one, I wanted to do it with the other sibling, and I just beelined it through 40 hours through the whole fucking main quest line. Because I was just like, I have no fucking patience for any of the side quest bullshit. Screw you.
Yeah.
And
it's funny. I didn't even do the side quest. I think I put about 50 hours into it.
Yeah,
I forget the Turian girl.
I went straight through the single player. In fact, I skipped it and went to multiplayer.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of Xaiphen being Xaiphen, though. Xaiphen always goes straight to that multiplayer.
Yeah, I was in the multiplayer pretty quick too. Same thing with.
Well, we were on multiplayer day one though. Like I think I waited like a week or two before I even touched the campaign.
Titanfall started out as a multiplayer. Well, it still is a multiplayer only game. The original Titanfall. I played that a little bit. Like, I don't like this. Titanfall 2. First thing I did was went through that campaign. So it depends on the game. Some games I feel that more than others.
Titanfall's campaign is multiplayer.
No. That's why I said Titanfall, the original one. I started up. It's only multiplayer. I never did the campaign because I just didn't. I played it for a few hours. Like, nope, not feeling it. Didn't like the game. I like the aspect of the game. I just didn't like the format and the setup of it. Titanfall 2 came out straight to the campaign. Love the campaign. Love the story of Titanfall 2.
Yeah. So just to Morris in the chat on there. Trying Elite Dangerous with your Vive. Everybody I hear that says that they try Elite in VR says that you can't play the game as long, but you don't want to play any other way. It's kind of this catch-22. It's like you playing the game without VR feels just.
Three of us here all want to try that game out in Vive. Want to play that game in Vive.
Yeah. Or even. If we can't afford Vive, I just throw it out there. Rift, was it Rift Go or Rift S? Rift Go, Rift S. I can't remember which one's which.
I think it's the Rift S
coming out.
It's the $500 one. It's comparable to PSVR. It's not going to be your top of the line one, but whatever. In any case, though, we're going to go ahead and get everything winded down for the day here. Obviously, if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. We stream every Saturday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time. We do an alternating stream schedule where on one weekend we do the podcast like what you're watching now, and on the other weekend we do a party stream where we get together and play some co-op games and rib each other a lot, to the point where Xaiphen rage quits because he's getting made fun of too much. Kidding. That's usually me. This rage quitting because I have very fragile sensibilities and I can't take a lot of criticism. That's why I'm on Twitter.
PC has no games.
In any case, we also, if you want to hear the podcast in its audio format, we also upload the audio of the podcast to all of the major podcasting platforms, as you guys see in the chat there, or you can find the links down in the description below. Anywhere you get your podcast from, just search for The Pixel Crashers, and you'll find us on there. In any case, we're going to get signed off here for the day, guys. We want you to have a good one. You guys be good to each other, and think slow.
Spencer.
Think slow, and take a breath. Relax.
Ooh.
Take a rest. Take a rest.
I love you, Mrs. Sue.
Bonus points to
She's
anybody
not going to marry you, and you've already got a wife.
Bonus points to anybody that catches that take a rest reference. Anyway, guys, you guys have a good one. We will be back next week. Peace out, everybody. Good times.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Fade out. I'm now just a ghost. Speaking from the great beyond.
No.
Did Kev just completely leave?
Yeah, he's just like, I'm the fuck out of here. He wants to finish that upload. Shut that down. I'm gonna pop this over to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.